Okay. Once upon a time. Here, put it here. Once upon a time. Yeah. Are you ready? Once upon a time, there was a little boy who lived with his mummy and daddy in one little house with one little sofa.
No, 1 and 1. Only 10 windows.
10?
11 sofa. 20 windows. 21 sofas. 22 beds.
That's too many though for one little family, isn't it?
Yes.
Really?
Like that.
Okay. Once upon a time, there was one little boy, and he lived with a very special family because they had lots of things. And even though this little family lived in one house, they had 10 windows and 11 doors. Like this. Yeah. And they had 15 sofas and 8 tellies and 4 beds, even though there was only 3 of them. They had so many things that they couldn't use them all at once because there was only 3 people in this small family. And every time they had some friends round, the friends would say, "Why have you got 8 tellies and 15 sofas when there's only 3 of you?" Are you okay? And the mummy and daddy would not have an answer to that. You okay? Yeah, lie down. Okay, you ready? Okay. Put it down, please. And then, every time somebody came around, they would say, "Why have you got so many things?" And the mummy would say, "I don't know. It seems that every time Daddy comes home, he's got another thing." Oh, are you okay? Put it down now. Right, I'm going to go now. I'll see you later. Gotta close your eyes. It's 11 o'clock now. Take down your mouth.
I want to go to Mom.
Oh, do you want me to finish the story?
I can tell my mom you hit me. I can tell all of you.
I just went like this because I want you to lie down. Come on.
I want to tell all of you if you just didn't something. Okay?
I love you.
Don't cry and something. I can tell you all this song, okay?
I just want you to go to sleep. I'll tell you a nice story.
No helping anyone. Because you're helping just and you hit me in something.
Where am I lying right now? Am I lying next to you now? Am I lying next to you? Who am I hugging? Where am I now? Let me finish the story. Where were we? So this one family, they had all these things in their one small house because Daddy kept coming home with new things and the boy didn't even know where he got them from. Well, one weekend, Mommy and Daddy said, "Why don't we go on the train to the seaside And we can get away from all these things and just sit on the beach on a chair and watch the waves and the seagulls. And we could maybe have an ice cream and some fish and chips. Oh, what a good idea, said Daddy. And so the very next day, the mummy and the daddy woke up, packed their lunch, got a taxi to the train station, took the train all the way down to the beach. And at the beach, they went right and got a chair. And they sat there, just the three of them, watching the waves rolling in and watching the seagulls flying down and flying up. And it was a bit windy, so they luckily had brought their warm jackets and scarf and a hat. And after about 1 hour, the boy got a bit restless. And the boy said, I want to play with the pigeons. Or seagulls. I want to play with the seagulls. And the mummy said, you can't play with the seagulls. I'm hungry, said the boy. Me too, said Daddy. Let's go for some fish and chips. So they got up and they packed the chairs away. And they went up the road to buy some fish and chips. Daddy got fish, chips and mashy peas. And Mummy just got a fish. And the boy got fish, chips and curry sauce with lots of salt and vinegar, please. And they bought them. And they took them back to the seaside, back to the beach. And then they sat down and ate them. Well, the boy couldn't finish all his fish and chips. And so, what did he do with the rest of them? That's right. Give them to the seagulls. And so the first time he threw one, there was 2 seagulls. And he thought that was rather funny, watching them flap about over a chip. So he ran back and he got another one and he threw it really far, right next to a bunch of seagulls. And that caused another bunch of seagulls to fly right next to the chips. Soon there were hundreds and hundreds of seagulls flapping around. The boy got a bit scared and ran away back to his mummy and daddy. Daddy thought it was quite funny to see the boy scared, so he picked up some fish and chips and threw it onto the boy's head. Oh my gosh, there was about 100 seagulls landing on the boy's head, grabbing at his hair, pulling his hair, ready to try and eat the chips. The boy didn't like this at all. The smelly seagulls pooping on his head. He started to cry, and that's when Mum shouted, "Hey, Daddy, don't do that to the little boy." Daddy said, "All right." So he shouted and ran at the boy. But he wasn't shouting at the boy. He was scaring away the seagulls. And they flew away in a minute. He picked up the boy, wiped the poo off his hair, wiped his eyes with a different tissue, mind, gave him a big hug and said he was sorry. He didn't mean to have all the seagulls grab his hair. And he put the boy down, held his hand and walked him back to the chair. I sat him down and said, "Okay, just sit here now, we've got another hour and we'll go back to the station." An hour passed and the boy had calmed down. He'd forgotten all about the seagulls and was just mesmerized by the ocean. Dad had to snap his fingers in front of the boy's eyes to wake him up, even though his eyes were open. "Get your stuff, lad. Let's go back to the station." And so the boy put his stuff back in his pockets and took a couple of stones from the beach. And then took a taxi back to the station. The boy fell asleep as soon as he sat as the train set off, and woke up as soon as the train got to the stop. Even though he'd woken up, he still wanted Dad to pick him up and carry him all the way back home, which, being a dad, he did, because that's what dads do. And when they got home, Mummy gave him a shower, washed his hair, and the boy brushed his teeth and got changed into his pyjamas, went into the one bed in front of the 8 tellies and the 15 sofas and the 11 tables and 10 windows with 10 curtains, closed his 2 eyes and went fast asleep until the next day. And he dreamed a bit of a scary dream, where there was one big seagull that came down and picked him up and took him away. The end.